Next up, we're going to have Galen, Grimm. So Galen's one of my younger brothers and farms here with Glenn. We've been doing a lot of work here on our farm with tissue sampling and irrigation and fertigation for a number of years. So Galen's going to share some of that.
So I'm just going to show a few slides and talk about some of the things that we've done over the last couple of years on emergence, soil stratification, and just our general thoughts about what we've learned through that. You can't manage what isn't measured. I think that slide's already been, someone already used that quote, but we believe that on our farm, we try to measure pretty much everything. As a benchmark, if we try and do a treatment, what was our baseline? How do we know if it worked? We aren't measuring it. So with that, one of the things that we like to watch in the spring is our emergence. So this is a table of a flag test, emergence test, across all 24 rows of our planter. There's a few things going on here, so let me try and explain how this is. This is row 1, row 2, row 3, all the way across every row on the planter. And then this column here is the first 12 hours of emergence. Okay, so row 1, the first 12 hours, so we go out to the field and we look and we've got 2 plants up on this row. Okay, so our emergence is starting. So we go through every row, and at 93 GDUs, so we've been tracking the GDUs, and we know at about 90 GDUs we're going to have corn plants emerging. We go out there, row 1 has none up in 12 hours, row 3 has 2 plants up, row 4 has none, row 5 has 4 plants up. We go out 12 hours later, which is probably that evening, and we've got 2 rows up on row 1, we've got 0 up on row 2, 5 on row, okay, hang on. So this is a cumulative. So there's actually 3 plants that came up here, so now we have 5 up total. We've got 5 plants up total in row 3. The next 12 hours, we've got 17 plants up on row 3, and so on and so forth. So what we've learned, or we think we've learned, is that if we can get everything up right in here, that's where our yield comes from. And we started out measuring that by time. We wanted them all up within 36 hours of each other. It's really actually needs to go by heat units. So this is from 2021, and from the start of emergence, we had 93 GDUs. At the end, the last one we checked here, we were at 120 GDUs. So that's 27 GDUs. We accumulated 27 growing degree units of heat in 84 hours. So not very warm. That's actually a pretty decent emergence for our soils. We can stretch our emergence out over a week sometimes, and maybe not accumulate a lot of heat because we can be cool at the end of April and into May. But if we can get everything up within 25 GDUs, we feel like that's pretty good. There are some people that would say 15 to 20, the high yield guys, like Randy Dowdy and David Hula, they think you got to have it all up in 20 GDUs to maximize. I'm not disagreeing with that, but in our soils, in no-till, rolling terrain, it's going to be pretty hard to get it dialed in tighter than 20 GDUs. So this is pretty interesting to just see how the variability in emergence affects yield, but it's also makes us wonder, why do we have not great emergence right here? Let's go down here to row 11. We didn't get anything coming up until almost 60 hours in. So what caused that? So we can go look at our planter and see if we can figure something out. We've been through it 10 times already that year. But it's interesting to see, okay, are pinch rows affecting us, or different closing systems? So our planter this year we had several different closing systems going on. We had furrow force on the outside 4 rows on the right, outside 4 rows on the left. We had a fast track closing system on the middle 8. These are my pinch rows. You can see we don't have great emergence in the middle of this planter. Is that from the pinch rows? Maybe not. I don't know. And we did this in 21. We did it in 20 also. And the results they didn't line up great. We did this one year and we're like, okay, is there something going on? So we did it again the next year, and it, So then we said, okay, how is this affecting yield? So we took this to harvest, and we went out and harvested every ear on every row for that 1/1000th of an acre, 17.5 feet. And we hand shelled every ear, which, by the way, that's about 780 ears, and calculated it out to yield. This is where things get sideways with me. So we've got one row on this planter that made 299 bushels an acre. So we're shooting for 300. How do we get to 300 bushel an acre? We did it on that row. You drop down here to row whatever 15 this is, or 12, 13. It's a pinch row. It made 213. So we've got 85 bushels of variability across 12 rows right there. So what's affecting that? After we did this, I thought we could have one extra plant in one row. Maybe if we measured our 17 and a half feet, if our starting and ending point were off a little bit and we got an extra plant, that would have a huge effect on this. So we went to the other end of the field, same set of rows, and we harvested one row at a time for a quarter of a mile. We came halfway across a quarter, harvesting one row at a time, weighed out in a weigh wagon, and then, so that's this same row at the other end of the field. It made 289, 256, 254, 274, but you can see it doesn't line up real great. We have one high yield row here on both ends, but we have a low here and a high here. So what affects that? We end up with more questions here than we do answers. Needless to say, this took a lot of time and ended up being an expensive experiment for a few reasons. When we were harvesting this is the flag test. So there's 770 different flags. Every color of flag is a different emergence window. In the morning, they're all yellow. In the evening, they're all blue. Next day, they're white, whatever, so on and so forth. And then it was an expensive trial. My seed rep and we've dumped in that weigh wagon probably a few hundred times. And when you're doing a one-row harvest, you have the outside row of your 12-row head. And so that puts the combine in the open pass, and him and I didn't quite calculate that. And he pulled up in the empty pass, just past where I'm driving, assuming I would be going in on a full head width. I'm over here taking one row, and I'm hauling the mail, just focusing on that one row, and all of a sudden, boom. Anyways, I put a stop to everything for a few hours. And then, if anyone thinks that we don't have hard times on this farm, I was looking through my picture on my phone, and the very next picture was this. And since this is a drip meeting, I figured I'd throw this in there because your drip won't be walking over your pickup anytime soon. That was a bad day. I think that was Saturday evening about 8 o'clock, and I think we just called it a day right there, or a week. Okay, so back to the harvest variability by the row. So we have a lot of questions. Why do we have so much variability? Is it the planter? Is it what's causing all this variability? So we went out and soil tested where we did the flag test. We pulled 3 soil tests down every row. One at the first third, one in the middle third, and one in the last third of every row all the way across. We had 24 soil tests times 3, whatever that is, 70 soil tests. We pulled 5 cores, all within an area about like this. That made up one soil test. So in every row, we got 15 cores, sent that all in, and I averaged the 3 tests in the one row. This is row 1, so this is 3 soil tests, averaged. The numbers are averaged into here. On row 1, I had a yield of 285. I got an organic matter of 5, pH of 7.2, phosphorus number of 61, potassium 175, K saturation of 2. If we jump over to row 3 rows away, so this is 60 inches away, I have an organic matter of 4.8, pH of 6.9, phos of 71, potassium of 225. So 225 to 175, what is that? 30% difference. But within this test, down the row, side to side, there's as much as 300% variability within 2 feet. And so how is that affecting the yield of that? And this was eye-opening to us. There's so much variability in our soil. How do we account for that, and how do we manage that? We're not really sure what to do with all this information. It's just interesting to us. How we manage for that, I'm not really sure. Shifting a little bit off of that and going deeper in the soil profile. So then we went and tested. We've actually done this number of years. So this is some average data over a number of years. We've tested by the inch. Where are our nutrients at in the soil profile vertically? There's 2 different management types here in this slide. So the blue line is a broadcast field. It's been broadcast fertilized. And the orange line is banded fertility. We strip tilled, band about 5 inches deep. and we have for probably 15 years now. So we went and soil sampled every 1 inch, 2 inch, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, and 18. And what we found was that most of our fertility is in the top few inches for the most part, especially phosphorus and potassium. On this field, we start at 1 inch. We've got 100 part per million phosphorus value. And by the time we get to 12, we're almost at 20. If you get to 18 inches, we're at like 10, 15. Is that a problem? Do roots grow deeper than 2 inches? I think this is a problem for taking yields to the next level. If we're going to grow 300-400 bushel corn, I think this is a legit problem. I'm not sure how we change it. We've tried a few things, haven't been super successful. We've tried flipping the soil. We plowed it. We came in with a moldboard plow, plowed it twice, went back and tested those same sites, and it equalized it out some, but I think we should have actually loaded the surface, put a load of 800 pounds of K out there or something, and then flipped that and tried to put that underneath. By flipping it, it seemed like we did do a decent job of distributing it, but it was hard to tell if we were really effective with what we wanted to do. This is the K values. You can see it drops off pretty hard. Magnesium comes up, so magnesium-calcium ratios, if you follow any of what that does, basically, if your magnesium percentage gets higher, that generally means you have a tighter soil or your soil's getting tighter. And so not surprising at 12 to 18 inches, that starts doing that in our clay soils. So does it matter? Like I said, I think our roots grow deeper than 2 inches. One thing back on the K, if any of you tissue test, so with having that much fertility in our top 2 to 3 inches, when it stops raining, one of the first things we see on tissue tests, and shows up pretty quick even on the plant, is we become deficient in K. And I would propose that's because there's no moisture in our top few inches of soil. The plant's not able to access that potassium, and therefore you start having deficiencies in K. Does this matter? So this top line is the highest yielding soil area that we have on our farm. We've had several 95 to 100 bushel soybean yield entries, and it's consistently 300 bushel corn in this area. So we went and tested this spot. We want to see what's different about this soil, which there was a feedlot up above it probably 30 years ago. Obviously, it's really high, but it's also high all the way through the profile. It does start dropping off when you get below 12 inches, but if you look at all the K, all the other tests, they're all doing the same thing. They're high all the way down to 12 inches versus falling off as soon as we get deeper than about 3 inches. So that's all I have.
Maybe explain what we did out here this year with the strip till, where we held out the phosphorus and potassium.
Yeah, so out here, we took 2 zones, ran our normal fertility, 165 pounds in, variable rate our phosphorus based off soil test, which generally averages out somewhere around 100 to 120. And then we run, on our corn ground, we run 100 pounds of 0060, 75 pounds of gypsum, and 1 pound of actual zinc. So we did that on two zones, and then the next 2 zones beside it, we cut that all in half, and we ran the extra nutrients through the drip to make them all the same. So we'll see how that turns out.